Welcome to the Weekly Wars podcast, where two guys who talk about Star Wars way too much have decided to record it and let you listen. Be sure to check every Wednesday to get the latest episode. And now to Zach and Rhett.
That was really loud.
That was excessive.
I don't know what happened.
Welcome to Weekly Wars, your weekly dose of all things Star Wars.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Rhett.
And this week we are talking about our favorite quotes from all of Star Wars. Oh, well, it doesn't come from everything, but there's no barrier to where these quotes could come from, except Star Wars.
Mostly just stuff that is more recently on our minds, I guess. Probably could pull more quotes from comic books and normal books, but
I tried to find some stuff from Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Some of it wasn't quite as classic, though.
Just a lot of talk about meat bags. That's pretty fun.
Yeah, HK-47, but it's hard to do favorite quotes when it's entire conversations.
Yeah. Anyways.
Do we have any announcements this week? I don't think so. New Rogue One information out.
Very much so.
10 pages of what's going to be the visual guide. I'm pretty excited.
That's not coming out until January 17th, though. So we have a while.
But you can look at the 10 pages right now and see cool stuff, including why is the new X-Wing in that Rogue One visual guide.
Right? What's up with that?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay. That's enough of a deterrent. We can get back to favorite quotes if you want now. Never tell me the odds.
Always a classic. And I think that we should have a slight distinction that we have some of our favorite quotes that are fun for everyday use, and then others that are, much more philosophical with a deeper meaning. But
Don't
never
get
tell
cocky,
me the odds.
kid.
A lot of Han Solo stuff is pretty good for any situation.
Boba Fett.
I use that constantly.
Anytime someone brings up Boba Fett, we say it that comes up a lot more than you think. It's not like every once in a while someone mentions Boba Fett. It's fairly frequently.
It's probably like once a week or something.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe it's just the circles we're in, but I find myself doing it fairly often. And you can always tell how cool people are by who gets that when I do.
Who understands the reference? Yeah, I guess that's one way. But I mean, you can really take everything Han Solo says, and what's pretty awesome is that even with the new movie, he still has a couple of great lines now that everyone's starting to use again.
That's not how the Force works.
All the time at work, me and all of our nerd friends, we use that. That's not how the Force works.
That's probably one of the best quotes, even with all of things considered. That's still considered.
It's up there. That's pretty memorable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Harrison Ford. It's too bad. Oh, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen the movie, though, you have no excuse. This is a small tangent, but there was someone on Facebook just not that long ago, like a month ago, that was all like, some of us have lives and kids, and we just haven't been able to see the movie yet. And I'm all like, there's no excuse at this point.
It is one of the biggest movies in film history. If you haven't seen it, that is only on you.
And it's fine if you haven't, but you can't tell other people not to talk about it.
Right.
We're way beyond that.
Society has moved to the point where we should be free to talk about it openly because it's been half a year since it came out.
Yeah. So there you go. Sorry. Another small tangent. Back to quotes.
That's so wizard.
Well, that's what's funny, though, is usually you're just talking about something random and someone says something and it triggers one of these quotes, right? And so that's when you throw it out there. That's so wizard.
Yeah, it's working is always one that comes up too.
It's working. Yeah, anytime you fix something in your work environment or like the Wi-Fi gets fixed at home, Like
you
anything, the
can't help
power
it.
comes
It
back
just-
on.
it
It's
just-
working.
Whatever
It's
you want to
working.
say about the prequels, at least that quote gets used constantly.
That poor kid though is in jail now or whatever. He's like super messed up.
Yeah, that's no fun.
And we still all use that quote, it's working, even though that contributed to ruining his life.
I think one that I use kind of often, which may just be more owing to the fact that I read the Darths and Droids webcomic. There's always a bigger fish. Comes
There's
up fairly
always a bigger fish.
For those of you who have never heard of Darths and Droids, I highly recommend it. A group of writers out of Australia, I think, took screenshots from the Star Wars movies and made a comic strip out of it as if the characters in the movie were being played by role players in a role-playing game.
Like Dungeons and Dragons type game.
Right. In a world in which they had never heard of anything like the campaign setting that the DM has put forth. So
it actually helps make the prequels make sense, too, because I have
so
no idea
true.
what's going on. Just
Qui-Gon
random
Jinn is played
decisions.
by the guy that just always charges in without thinking, and it makes total sense for what's going on. It's
It doesn't like someone's little sister show up to play, and they
Yes.
decide to be Jar Jar Binks. And
they make Jar Jar Binks, they make Yoda. They're the one who says,
the
because
little
they
kid
have
is
that,
the little sister.
yeah.
And then they're like, what should we name the planet? She's like, Naboo! And they're all like, that's kind of dumb. And she's like, no, do it! She like throws a fit or something.
And then she says, it has a water core. And everyone's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why would it have water core? And then one of the players is like, well, actually, if you did this and this, and he goes into the geophysical explanation that would actually make sense. And that was one of my favorite parts, because they're like, oh, hey, here's how it could work. And everyone's just like, oh, all right, whatever, sure.
So I think I read past that, but I don't remember. How do they use there's always a bigger fish in there?
Well, so they play it off as a summoning spell. The one guy that plays Qui-Gon Jinn is like, summon bigger fish. And then that's when the other fish comes in and eats the one.
Wow.
And then it's like they have a running joke of it, because they took a break from doing the main comic, and they did a short story from one of the Clone Wars episodes, and it's one in which Jar Jar goes and gets into his misadventures. And he actually, like, one of the parts when he takes out a whole bunch of bad guys is because a fish falls out of the sky.
Yeah.
And so they do that again. Jar Jar's like, summon bigger fish.
Wow.
So that's not necessarily a Star Wars quote, but that's one me and my brother use fairly often.
It
Summon
started
bigger
to mean
fish.
something. There's always a bigger fish.
Right? It's pretty good.
A lot of the quotes from like episode 2 are usually things that we're making fun of. Sand gets everywhere. Anytime someone
everywhere.
goes to the beach or comes back from the beach, or like anything remote, like play in a sandbox, or their kids play in a sandbox, sand gets everywhere.
Right. So coarse.
So coarse. And it's not, it's more just like that was so ridiculous. Plus, he just murdered a whole bunch of people. And
Yeah,
so-
and I do have to say that "You're breaking my heart, Anakin" I use constantly.
My heart.
You're going down a path I cannot follow.
Oh, episode 3 quotes. Twice the power, double the fall. What does that even mean?
Okay, sure. You didn't have to be so specific with it. Like he's treating it like a mathematical equation, not
Right.
like
Well,
a
and even
metaphorical
Anakin
thing.
says just before that, I have leveled up to level 90.
My power level is over 9,000.
No, what does he say? He says,
My power is doubled.
Have
He says
doubled,
it.
right.
Yeah, my power is doubled since we last fought, or whatever. Since
which
we
is funny
last
because
met.
if you look at the two fights, you're like, I don't even know what that means. Like, they're still jumping around doing the same stuff. So.
Right. He didn't lose an arm. I guess that's double of what he did before. So that's so classic.
A lot of
so
of
wizard.
terrible quotes from episode 2 and 3.
So
so love has blinded you.
Usually, yes. So this is kind of news, I guess, but the Star Wars YouTube channel has just started the Star Wars show this last week. So semi-news. It's just they have like a 10-minute Star Wars segment talking about Star Wars things. They also had the director for Warcraft on there, so they're trying to go into not specifically Star Wars areas, but it's with Andy Gutierrez, who is the main host of Rebels Recon, and then they have some other guy, I don't know who. Sorry, other guy. But in their segment, or they do some small segment that's like characters who matter, like background characters who mean something. And their very first segment, their pilot episode last week, first segment of that is about Kitster. And why, like, I don't know, saying that without Kitster, we wouldn't have Darth Vader. It was a very tangential argument. I don't really understand how it correlates, because Kitster was only a part of Anakin's life for
It's the butterfly effect.
I mean, maybe Anakin heard "that's so wizard" so many times that it drove him crazy to the point where he murders innocent sand people.
Or he became a wizard that murders innocent sand people.
It's like, that's so wizard. I'm so wizard. Force choke.
I follow the logic there. I'm there. That's
I
pretty
find
great.
your lack of faith disturbing.
Oh, man, we don't have any Emperor quotes listed here. That's terrible.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, we quit. Sorry. See you guys.
Oh, man. The Emperor, geez, he had one episode and he's just quoted everywhere.
Right?
Well, he had
Kinda
one episode originally. Now he has. Yeah. He was in episode 6 and now he has
He
the
was in
prequels,
5 for...
Oh, that's true. That's true. Do it. That's from episode 3 and that's kind of dark.
Do it.
Do it.
Give in to your anger. Strike me down, and your journey to the dark side will be complete.
Oh my gosh. We can't talk about that scene. It's so amazing.
It is goosebumps.
We had to spend like an entire episode just on that and how awesome it is.
We will. When
will.
we get to the lightsaber review part of that.
Okay. I'm down with that. Okay. We'll talk about more Emperor quotes then, because, man, that's how you actually tempt someone to join the dark side. Kill me. Go ahead, do it. Like, just kill me. I'm the big bad guy. Kill me.
Yep. You can stop it. You can save your friends. Just kill me.
Just kill me. Okay.
Whatever you want to say about Return of the Jedi, that scene is one of the greatest in cinema history.
Absolutely.
I just said
3 movies build up to that
took that
amazing
stance.
moment perfectly, as opposed to like Hunger Games or
right.
other similar movies where their finales you're all like, oh, that didn't seem to really set up for that.
Yeah.
But anyway. Okay. So let's talk about ObiWan Kenobi. No. Let's not get to that yet, because I don't want to fight yet. Let's talk about hello, what have we here?
Oh yeah, Lando has some good stuff. Well, it's not my fault. It's
not my fault.
That's kind of an incidental one, but it's still so. It's not my fault.
That's a shared
it's
quote.
It's not my fault. Yeah.
Well, that sort of goes with the all ever present. I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, that's just everywhere. But
Everyone
it's
gets to
still
quote
so
it.
classic.
It's not my fault.
Yeah, both of those are all over the place, but it's always a good reminder.
And of course, when he says hello, what have we here? He's talking about Princess Leia. Someone's got to save our skins.
Yeah, I like using hello, what have we here fairly often as well.
Yeah.
This is just making me realize that probably like 30% of my daily vocabulary
Conversations,
uses
just Star
this.
Wars quotes.
My dialogue is already pre-written, basically. Oh, man.
Oh, man. And well, things changed, too. You don't have the Slave Leia outfit. It's now the Hutt Slayer outfit.
The Hutt Slayer. Yeah.
Thanks to the Bloodlines book. Spoiler alert, you guys can check that out.
That's my new favorite, though.
Hello, what have we here? I think we use that at work a lot. There's a couple people at work who don't know Star Wars, and so it just gets really funny because they have no idea what we're saying, and some of it's a little difficult to explain.
That's way too bad.
It is.
I am
too
so
bad.
sorry for those people.
Okay, let's move on to some of our. Well, let's talk about ObiWan Kenobi and get that out of the way, and then we'll move on to some of our more serious ones.
You can start this, Mr. Negative Nancy.
Let's start with his dump. Well, first of all, I thought he was fine in episode 4 and 5. I thought his explanation of the Force in 4 was fantastic.
It's one of the best.
Easily the best.
Sums it up in a sentence.
In a
all
way
that you need to know.
Oh yeah, everything you need to know about it. He nails it. That was awesome. Episode 5, he has some conversations that are good. Nothing that's really dumb.
From a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view. That's another one we use all the time.
Yes.
From a certain point of view.
Many times on this podcast.
Yeah, we should go back and count that. If anyone re-listens to the podcast, count all the times we say from a certain point of view. Let's see how many.
It's just so easy to use when you're talking about subjective material in a Star Wars
yeah, most of our political
sense.
Discussions end up being, well, from that point of view. Yeah.
From a certain point of view.
From a certain point of view. However, episode 3 has got to be the worst. There's one that's pretty bad, and we can fight about that. But episode 3 has the one where he says, only a Sith deals in absolutes. And that's got to be the dumbest statement ever, because it is an absolute. Like,
no, I will not even try to defend that one. But I will say, okay, I will try to defend it. He is caught up in the moment.
Oh, whatever.
No, he's caught up in the moment. You know, you don't always think completely rationally, and you tend to overgeneralize, which is what he's doing there. Obviously, he doesn't mean only Sith, because apparently lots of other people, it's a galaxy of trillions of beings. I'm sure plenty of them want to deal in absolutes. So
you're saying this
emotional.
wasn't because George Lucas was a moron and wrote one of the dumbest lines ever. You're saying it was intentional because...
In a meta sense, of course that's the answer. But I'm saying in universe, that's the excuse I'm going for. I mean, he's a Jedi Master, but he just found out he's been betrayed by his brother. Right? You're my brother, Anakin.
It's not really his brother.
No, he calls him his brother, so it's close enough.
Yeah, no.
You were my brother, Anakin.
Are we brothers?
Close enough, I guess.
Close enough. Not even. Not after this. Can't believe you're defending that.
I am defending that.
Gosh, that line is so bad.
Whatever.
That whole conversation is bad. I don't even know what's going on. I
cannot
have brought
say...
freedom and cookies to my empire.
The dark side does have cookies. This is a known fact, obviously.
Obviously.
No, but the
don't make me kill you. What? Whoa. That escalated quickly.
You cannot say, though, that you have done that yourself is not one of the greatest quotes ever.
Okay.
And used constantly all the time in real life.
It's true. But the lead up to that moment made absolutely no sense. But that is a quote that we use. You have done that yourself.
And that YouTube video that I don't like, the internet devoured it, apparently. But there was a YouTube video where someone took all of Obi-Wan's dialogue after he says that line and just replaced it with that line over and over. Everything else from the rest of that fight. And it works on such a level that is just so amazing. I haven't been able to find it for years.
Probably because it was the only good line in that.
You have done that yourself.
None of it made any sense. I mean, Anakin's sitting there like, I did this because I love you. Now I'm going to choke you to death and make the most irrational choices possible.
You've apparently never been in an abusive relationship, Zach.
Oh, I beg to differ. What do you think this is? Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Oh, boy.
This weapon is your life.
Okay, See, this one, I think I have a pretty good stance here, all right? A very solid footing, and it actually plays into what we've talked about before concerning the fall of the Jedi, the overall downgrade in morality, okay? Because from a Marine's point of view, your weapon is literally your life, right? I mean, we have the whole credo that everyone knows. This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. We sleep with our rifles from boot camp. The minute that you're issued your weapon, you start sleeping with it. Anytime you have your weapon, you need to sleep with it. It becomes your life. Like, you learn not to leave it anywhere. It goes with you whenever you have it, right? So how that correlates.
So and before you get to your point, because I know where you're going with this, because we've talked about this before.
Try and diffuse this.
I'm gonna say I think you have a point. I just think you're giving George Lucas way too much credit again. But when you literally have the ability to stop blasters in midair, do you need a lightsaber? I understand when you're in the military and you don't have the Force, you definitely need your weapon. But if you have the Force, you can literally know what people are going to do. Like, you can see the future. And I know some of them have limited powers and some of them don't. But is the weapon the most important thing, or should it be a reliance on the Force? Now, to be fair, and I'll let you say what you're going to say. It appears that Obi-Wan Kenobi's mind has changed by the time we get to episodes 4, 5, and 6. He doesn't seem to believe that anymore. I don't believe that was intentional by George Lucas, but it may have been. Okay, so now, go ahead.
So, like you said, it may not have been intentional, but I think, like with many things, George had the concept, he just didn't execute it the way that should have been. I could totally see as a plausibility that he intended for that to be a more specific, defined arc, that Obi-Wan goes from a quote-unquote warmonger. He's not a full warmonger, but he is caught up in the Jedi ideal of the time, which is aggressive negotiations.
Right. Fight for the Republic, even though they just said
we won't fight your war.
Yeah, we won't fight your war for you.
But yeah, so I think he had that concept that Yoda and Obi-Wan both had that arc, and that's why they are the ones to survive. It just wasn't implemented the way that it should have been, right? So when you include something like that says this weapon is your life, that's in direct contrast to Yoda saying the Force is my ally, right? Because Yoda is obviously on the other end of that spectrum saying, and, you know, he doesn't have his lightsaber.
Right.
At
Size
Dagobah.
matters not, another very popular quote. And
Right. So he's
powerful
foregone his
ally
lightsaber when he's on Dagobah. He is preaching solely the Force, right? He doesn't teach Luke how to fight with a lightsaber as far as you see in the movies. None of his training includes lightsaber training. It is all about the Force, the ethereal, the ephemeral.
In fact, he questions the need of the lightsaber before he goes into the cave.
Your weapon, you will not need it. So I think it is supposed to be a direct contrast. That line could summarize pre-Fall Jedi, right? That is what led to their downfall, is that they treated the lightsaber, because the lightsaber is supposed to be a symbol of the Jedi's status, you know? They're the only ones who wield lightsabers. When a lightsaber comes out, you know that it's a Jedi, and you know that they're supposed to be peacekeepers and ambassadors. But at that point, they were using it solely as a weapon, not even so much as a status. I mean, Obi-Wan, the first thing he does after that is cuts off some bounty hunter's arm. So I think that is a perfect summary of what we have previously discussed, being the arrogance of the Jedi. Boom.
So well, I'll say this, and then you can respond if you want. We'll move on. So you're saying that Obi-Wan was corrupted like the other Jedi?
Temporarily.
Temporarily.
But then he turns it around and becomes the greatest Jedi
The
that
great.
ever lived.
Oh gosh. Okay. Are you good? Do you want to say any more about that?
Obi-Wan's awesome. That's all.
By and far not the best Jedi, but that's okay.
I think you meant to say by and far the best. You put a not in there, but that was not intentional. I meant.
Okay, so let's go. We got the fight out of the way. We're good. We're okay. So let's talk about, because we were talking about the training in Yoda. So let's talk about do or do not. There is no try. And what I think is fun about this is actually brought up in
Rebels,
and they have an episode
like halfway through season 1.
Right, it sort of talks about it, and if you haven't seen it, this isn't like a huge spoiler for the whole series, so it's okay. But it's a fun episode to watch. But
so I think what I like about it is that in my own life, I know that people have always questioned, like, what does that even mean? If you're doing or if you're trying, that's kind of doing, and blah blah blah. And they bring that up in the episode, like it's a well-known, quote unquote, enough concern that Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo seems like they felt they needed to address it. So they made an entire episode about it in Rebels. So I like that it is that well known and that they were able to so succinctly make sense out of it. Like that's kind of a difficult philosophical concept to broach, especially in the format of a kids show, and I think they did fantastic with it, and just confirmed something that I've always said.
Well, it was pretty good because it actually, even the master at the beginning starts off going, I don't know what it means. Yoda just used to say it all the time.
Right.
And then they sort of discover it together by the end. And so, and like, you know, whenever you bring it up, there's always that turd that likes to come up and be all like, well, that doesn't really make any sense, even though we use this quote all the time for everything. When people are like, I'll try.
Yeah, everyone uses
do or do not. There is no try.
Like, not even huge Star Wars nerds use that one. That is ubiquitous.
Yeah, it's pretty much in all of society. So, but you kind of know where it comes from, so why don't you tell us about that?
So, for anyone who's ever heard of Miyamoto Musashi or read the Book of Five Rings, this is actually a theme that is brought up in that. And it is fairly well known at this point that Jedi philosophy is based on Zen Buddhism. Removal of emotion from the self, being introspective, philosopher warrior. A lot of that goes to Confucianism and Buddhism. Miyamoto Musashi, a lot of his teachings and writings focused on Zen Buddhism as it pertained to the samurai. So he actually talks about in his Book of Five Rings, the Book of the Void specifically, the idea that you have to win a fight before you even get into it. Musashi won, like over 60 duels in his lifetime. He got to the point where he was so good that he would fight with a wooden sword against live steel, and he would still win. So his entire philosophy was based around the idea of knowing that you will win to the point that you will win, which is a very nebulous concept. And I think that's kind of one of those things, like in Western society, it is a hard thing to grasp because of how, I don't know.
I think it's easier for some people. So if you're into athletics or like a lot of what we study, which is different types of fighting and fighting methods, right? It's that eye of the tiger. It's being in the zone. It's like, no, this is about me winning. When you're in a self-defense position, like a legitimate self-defense position, if you're going to fight, you are all in. It's not, well, I'm going to try and escape. It's no, if you're in trouble, you're going to kill them and get out of there.
Right.
Like, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And you're going all out. You aren't going to assume that it's going to work out. It's you're all in.
Right. Your only option is victory, so there's no other option.
Right.
You have to, and it's not even the idea that, like, it's not being blind to the possibilities. It's just committing yourself fully to the outcome that you want, right? Because obviously on a practical level, you need to be open to the idea that there is failure, but in the moment, in that time frame, you have to focus completely on the outcome you desire, which is why that's how Luke fails. He opens himself to the possibility of failure. He thinks about like, oh, I can't do this. Oh, I'm too weak. Oh, I'm a big baby. And then he can't do it.
And then
Yoda,
can't do it.
yeah.
Well, and you see this too. It's really interesting. I watch some sports. It just sort of depends. But I've seen football games, like championship level football games, where one team came to win, and the other team came because they thought they were just the best, and their mentality was not "we're here to win." Our mentality was those guys suck, and that is, and the guys who came to win destroy them, even if they're the underdog. Whereas guys with the attitude of no, we're here to win, they have that edge.
Right.
In UFC, you can look at like Ronda Rousey, and she said she mentally prepared, but you look at her in that fight against Holly Holmes last year where she lost, and you're like, she's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like she didn't properly emotionally prepare for that.
Right. And I think it applies in the reverse too, where you go in thinking like, oh, there's no way I can do this. You pull a Luke. It's like, whatever. I'll barely even try. And then you fail. And
that is why you fail. Another extremely popular quote.
Perfect. But yeah, I also think that it comes from, or you can also look at it in the past perspective of once you've done the thing or you failed trying, it's not like, oh, well, I tried. It's like, no, you didn't do it. You've either done it or you didn't after the fact.
You tried. You can say you tried, but you didn't do it in the end, or you did do it in the end.
Right. And because, at the end of all things, it's either done or it's not. You either did or you did not.
It's kind of like screenwriting. When you say they begin to walk, what does that mean? What does it mean to begin to walk? And where did that really begin? That's more of a philosophical question. Trying is a philosophical question.
Right.
And I think trying is hard to measure as well. Oh, I tried. Did you really try?
Did you though?
Yeah.
Well, like with Luke, he says I tried. But he obviously didn't, because if he did try, he would have done it, since he's one of the most powerful Jedi that's ever lived. So,
which
kind of a
which he learns and figures out.
Yeah, it is a process, right? It's not like you can just do it. It's like the whole idea of Zanshin in Iaido and Kendo. Like, you can't just do it, right? You don't just have the presence of mind to force your focus. That doesn't just come naturally. It has to be trained. So it's not a failure necessarily on Luke's part just because he hasn't learned it yet. It's just a step. A stepping stone.
Well, and I'll just say the last quote I want to talk about in regards to Yoda is when he says, "Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter." And I think that sort of exemplifies, like, there's something greater. You can be greater than what you are. And I think that's a message that can apply to everyone, even, religious or not religious. You can be more than what you are.
Right.
You are more than what you think you are, usually.
Yeah. It's not necessarily a spiritual or religious stance as much as it is just a philosophical stance. I mean, I don't know. Because philosophy, even that didn't have a severe amount of religious influence, is kind of, some philosophies have come to that conclusion as well. So,
yep.
It's
pretty cool. So I think that's it. That's all the ones we wanted to talk about, plus a few extras that came up along the way.
That's how it goes.
Come and join us next week. We are going to be talking about our favorite bounty hunters. That was a request we got to talk about, so we're finally going to put that one up. And yeah, share, like, comment on it. We want to hear your thoughts. You can come in and debate on the Obi-Wan debate. I've had people frequently notice that I hate Obi-Wan, and they always text me about it. You can post on Facebook about it, though.
Except only if you like Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I guess. If I need some people to rally behind me, though, because everyone mostly hates me so far. So.
Yeah. Duh. Because Obi-Wan's the best. Look at that beard.
The best is sucking. So anyways... It's getting real. We better stop. Do it.
And may the Force be ever in your favor.